the purpose of this call is to really give you a spiritual perspective on what we do and why we're doing it, and want to make sure that that we can feed you on a spiritual level, and so that it can enhance your entire um, enhance your life, right? Because you are more than just a life insurance sales agent, to me anyway. Well, to God, right? You're more than that.
That's
We
right.
are more than that. Your identity is we are all adopted sons and daughters of God by baptism in the Spirit. That's what I love, man. We're adopted sons and daughters. So as our identity, that's how we should identify ourselves. Our role. So that's kind of the two differences, right? You've got role and you've got identity. Your
Hmm.
role is the things that you do in the context of, you know, what you do it in. Like you're a mother, you're a father, son, daughter, you're
Oh
an
yeah.
insurance agent. Those are roles that you play. But your identity is way different. Your identity is how you should look at yourself. But as important as how you look at yourself as an adopted son or daughter is that everyone else is too. So we should be treating each other as brothers and sisters, made in the image of likeness of God, because
Hmm.
we're all adopted sons and daughters. And by
That's right.
how blessed are we, right? We've got that.
Exactly. Created in his image.
That's right. So again, the purpose of this call is to give you some spiritual food to chew on, spiritual food to dig into, so you can, maybe take some of these ideas and enhance your life with it, your spiritual life, which then, your spiritual life will bleed into everything else that you do, all the other roles that you play in your life. It should fortify it. It should be the foundational way that you live your life. And that's why I love sharing these things. Again, my disclaimer is I'm not a preacher. I don't have a doctorate in divinity. I just think I've learned some things that I hope that I can share with you in my walk in this business, that you can learn from and maybe take advantage of. So my small way of giving back to what God has done for me, because I'm just so grateful, so grateful. So anyway, thanks for everyone for showing up. Let's dig in and talk about this. I'm going to share my PowerPoint here. Can you guys see that?
Yeah, I can see it.
All right. So this is the 5 stages you move through emotionally when experiencing change. And I was talking to one of our agents that I just met, Jason, and it was like fortuitous because he's getting started in this new endeavor that we call financial services sales. And so I told him, "Hey man, you should come. You should plug in." He goes, "I'm Baptist. Is that okay?" I go, "Hey man, you're Christian, so you can join the club. Anyone can join the club. Anyone can come on. We don't discriminate, but we are bold in our proclamation that Jesus has saved us by his blood. We are healed, and we found grateful for the salvation he gave us by giving us his sacrificing it for us. So anyway, so the theme today is the 5 stages you move through emotionally when experiencing change, and we're going to couple this with the virtue of perseverance, and it'll be obvious why. So I'm going to talk about that so you can identify how you're feeling. What one thing about emotion is that it can be very deceptive. And we really recommend don't make any decisions when you're in an emotional state. Kind of get back to the ground, you know, clear your emotions out. That's when you can make solid decisions, when you're more rational. So it's kind of like you'd be fired up running through the streets naked, don't make a decision. Or you could be depressed, you want to jump off a bridge, don't make a decision. Okay. Let's just, keep yourself grounded, and the Holy Spirit will guide you. But you got to get that emotion out of you. Some people kind of they confuse emotion with being spiritual. They kind of couple the two. Faith is not based on emotion. Faith is based on faith. Okay. Faith is based on evidence that is unseen and that you know that you know that you know. And we're going to talk about faith at some point. Okay. This is not a faith talk, but faith is not based on emotion. Emotion can fuel your faith, but emotion is temporary. You know, God is eternal. Our faith and our salvation is eternal. So we should act as such, regardless of our emotions, whether, we have spiritual consolation where we're joyful um, because, or we're sad, it's called spiritual desolation. You know, those kind of emotions, while they're valuable in terms of understanding, because we are emotional people. So realizing that emotions can be utilized in a positive way. Okay. But never let your spiritual life be determined by emotion. Okay. Because that is a weapon used by the enemy, right? The enemy manipulates you through emotion, kind of like the fall, Adam and Eve. Look, they were enticed by wanting to be like God, by biting into the apple of the tree of knowledge, right? And Satan deceived them, but their ego, their pride, their wanting to be like God fueled them to make a bad decision. And that's where we got to be careful, right? So anyway, let's get you a little more knowledge on the emotional stages of change. Okay, let's talk about. So why is change hard? Okay, look, to improve and grow, change is required. I mean, to improve and grow, change is required. To change effectively, it involves thought and emotion. Whether you're learning to ride a bike, remember when you were young, learn to ride a bike, or, you know, lead yourself in a new direction, propose a project, to spend money if you're at work. I mean, all these things, renovate the house, or, get in better physical shape. Something's going to change. The reason why you got into this business was because you were trying to make a meaningful change in your financial situation, whether it's additional income on the side, working part-time, whether it's working part-time to go full-time independent, where you're truly independent. Maybe you just hate the job thing. Okay. You got into the business for a reason, a why. Okay. And maybe you've never done insurance before, or maybe you've never done insurance with us before. Maybe you've done it with another group. Getting involved in something new involves change and growth. The emotional aspects of change is really what we're going to talk about today is really based on a model that's been adapted by Don Kelly and Daryl Connor. And this is a really good model to understand it, because once you understand your emotions as you're going through the change process, then it allows you to not make rash or crazy decisions like quit. Okay. As long as you understand where it's coming from and why you're going through it. Right. Finally, look, if you understand the emotional cycle of change, like I said, what it does, it really normalizes the range of emotion that occurs. So you keep it in context, in other words. That's what that word normalize means. It keeps you from going off the rails, right? The cycle is present in all kinds of scenarios. You'll recognize this cycle in anything, like when you got married, right? If the first time, if you've been married multiple times, right? The first time you got married, living with someone, I mean, it's a whole change, right? Maybe there's a change in leadership in your organization. Maybe your company is introducing a new vision or mission statement, or maybe they're introducing a new software program to manage the financials. I mean, seen that. Maybe you've gotten divorced and having to go through change, or the loss of a loved one, going through that kind of a change. Everyone goes through it, and you have all been through these feelings. So I'm not going to tell you anything you don't know. What I am going to do is help you recognize where you are in the change process going on with the financial services business with us. Okay. And it'll help you better understand, and hopefully will help you with, when we talk about the virtue of perseverance, suffer through the different cycles, okay, and get through it, right? So this is what that looks like. Okay, the emotional cycle of change. So let's talk about these areas. So this first area, stage 1, is called uninformed optimism, right? What uninformed optimism is, it's the most exciting part of the change stage, because you're optimistic. You're thinking about the benefits are going to happen. You've visualized how this could change your life in a, maybe significant way, maybe, in some kind of way, but you're imagining how beneficial it's going to be for you. But you've not experienced any of the costs, what it's going to cost you emotionally, monetarily, etc. You just are looking at all the good things that you're looking forward to. Uninformed optimism, it really just kind of sits above the line of the land of positive emotion. Okay. So above this dotted line is optimism, below the line is pessimism. So this uninformed optimism is right above the line. Okay. Now, you see all the benefits here of the change. You see the benefits of change, but you don't see any of the downside yet. Okay. You brainstorm and strategize for the future, but you have no idea what the costs are involved. And that's how we all are. We're optimistic. We look at all the good things. We look at it through the lens of never experiencing, a new thing. It's the shiny object that you're enamored with, right? It's almost like the romance of dating someone new that you like a lot. You're just thinking all the positive things about them. But over time, especially after you get married, the negative part, maybe the not so positive part of them, will become revealed, just like you will reveal the other things about you that, the other person didn't know, right? So anyway, that's uninformed optimism. Informed pessimism. Okay. So this is where the cycle starts here below the line of optimism, pessimism, and you're going to the downward cycle. So what is the informed pessimism? Informed pessimism is where uninformed optimism stops. Okay. And it doesn't last very long when you get started. What you learn is that you're going to learn the reality of what it takes to change. The positive emotions quickly sour and the pessimism starts to set in. This stage, the informed pessimism is a shift to the negative emotional state. So, there might be some bright spots, but in general, you're feeling it. You're feeling like, is this really for me? Am I doing it right? Am I unable to do it? You're going to start questioning yourself as you start getting pessimistic, and you're informed because now you're starting to experience the emotional costs, the monetary costs, etc. Okay. Here, the benefits don't seem so real because it's hard to see the benefits because it's not working yet. Okay. And I say yet, it's not working yet. Here, so you don't see the benefits. They're not as important. They're not immediate because you're not experiencing success right away. And the cost of change becomes more apparent. Sometimes the problem is, and I've experienced this with certain agents, is they get success early and they think, oh, this is how it's going to be all the time. And then they get slammed with reality. So it's almost worse. Like you have uninformed optimism with positive monetary results, and you think everything's going so awesome that you're awesome. You're going to think, oh, I was made for this. But then reality will set in, okay? And that's where you start going in that downward stage two, the informed pessimism. You're going to start to question, is this really worth this effort? Because you're not seeing the benefits yet. And you start questioning, this is so hard. Maybe this is from a spiritual perspective. This is where most Christians start questioning, well, maybe the Lord is telling me I shouldn't do this. Maybe this is a sign from God. And what cracks me up is a lot of people will come to us and they think, man, I prayed on it. The Holy Spirit said, I should be with you guys. I should do this. Right. Then the informed pessimism kicks in. So they think it's a sign from God. It just cracks me up so bad. It's like, man, that's why emotion can really mess up your discernment. And this is where Satan, the enemy, can play with you big time. So you got to be very careful, man. When you get into this emotional informed pessimism. So then here's what happens in your head. You start looking for reasons to abandon this effort. Okay. Now you think you're at the bottom, but you aren't at the bottom yet. Okay. Because stage 3 is the valley of despair. And actually, you know what? When the Israelites came out of Egypt, they went through this big time. Like they had, why did they make 3 weeks, a 3-week trip turn into 40 years? Because they were wallowing in stage 2 and stage 3, the valley of despair. They were wallowing and wallowing and wallowing. They built a gold calf when Moses was receiving the tablets. They built a golden calf. Oh my gosh. I mean, seriously, they were like acting like little kids. So the emotional states of change, you can definitely see it in the Bible as when you look at when they fleed from Egypt. So it does get worse. The valley of despair. Let's talk about stage 3, the valley of despair. Lowest point of the emotional cycle. You go into the valley of despair, and this is when a lot of people give up. The pain of change, you really feel it here, and you don't see that you get your vision's clouded with the benefits of why you got in. The reason why you got in, it just seems so far away. It seems so unattainable. Then you start questioning the importance of what you're trying to accomplish. You start wondering, maybe I don't really want freedom financially as much as I thought I did. You start questioning crazy stuff in your head about the vision that God gave you. This is where vision, see, it's one thing to have vision, but you'll perish if you don't maintain the vision. Vision in the context of your spiritual life is a vision that's maintained regardless of how hard it gets. This is where spiritual perseverance comes in. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But, if you don't have vision, or if you lose your vision, you are going to die a painful death. It is terrible. So the benefits don't seem as important. This is where you fall into, pulling the trigger. The quickest way to end the discomfort instead of the suffering is to quit and go back to the way you did things before. You're going to start rationalizing why it was okay what you were doing before, right? The past doesn't seem so bad at this stage. Think about it. Think about, picking up your cross. Jesus talked about picking up your cross. It's the road to Calvary. It's not the health and wealth thing. It's the road of suffering to get to glory. And you look at spiritual perseverance of what, Jesus was our prime example of the passion that he went through in suffering for us and dying for us, right? If you quit here, guess what? I'm sorry to tell you, is that you're going to find something else, and you're going to go back to stage 1 and start all over again with something else. Now, how many of y'all, raise your hand in your own mind, go through this cycle over and over again. You see the next thing, you jump into it, and then you go through the cycle of change. You go down the valley of despair and think, well, this is not for me. I'm going to find something else. You go to that other thing, same thing. In uninformed optimism, then you hit stage 2, informed pessimism, find out it's hard. Stage 3, valley of despair, then you're out of there. Like, think about your life. Is your life this do loop where you start and stop things because it just got too hard, right? It's not for me because it was easy. It wasn't easy. It's like, dude, come on, man, wake up. If it were easy, it would not be worth doing. Like, is marriage easy? No, marriage is not easy. Marriage is work. Sometimes marriage is suffering, right? But the benefits of marriage is, tremendous, because there are tremendous spiritual benefits that you get from marrying a spouse, having a sacramental marriage where you're truly one flesh. And that is something that, and when you're in a true marriage, when you're having children, you are co-creators with God. Is that a cool thing? You're co-creators with God. How could you ever say that anything else that you're doing? You become co-creators with God. So anyway, I can use the marriage analogy is so deep. You will be able to persevere if you know why you're making the change. This is the key to perseverance, is understanding why you're doing what you're doing, right? And you have a compelling future vision of what you want to achieve, right? You will, our objective is we want to be with the Lord. We want to get to heaven, right? And we want to bring other people with us. And that vision is solid. No matter how difficult that Satan may make your life, you are secure knowing that if you continue to repent and believe in the gospel, that you will be saved, right? So you will be able to persevere if you know why you really remind yourself why you're making the change in the first place. That's typically the reason why people quit, is they forget why they wanted to do it, right? No longer something that is compelling in their lives. Okay, the fourth stage, informed optimism. So you exercise your virtue of perseverance, and then you start seeing things starting to work. The process is starting to work. Your trust and faith in the process you've maintained somehow through perseverance, and the process begins to work for you. And you're starting to see glimpses of success, right? That's informed optimism. The informed part is learning that what you're doing, you're learning that what successful agents are doing. You're learning what successful people are doing, and you're implementing it, and you're starting to see it work for you. Kind of the biggest thing that I run into all the time, that I ask agents, are you following the script? Yeah, I'm following the script. I can't book any appointments. Okay, come at me. Let me hear your script. Oh my gosh. It is nothing close to what the script is. It's a script. Read the darn thing, okay? And I find that agents are saying all kinds of crazy things. Well, I'm following the script. It's like, dude, seriously, you are not following the script. Like, I'm sorry to inform you that you are not following the script. And then they start realizing, oh, okay. They start following the process, and they're starting to see that it works, right? What a concept. Informed optimism, right? See, the possibility of success starts to increase, and you're back in the positive emotional zone. You're starting to see things work for you. The benefits of your action are starting to return results, starting to bear fruit. And the cost of the change is starting to feel like it's worth it. You see glimpses, you see part of your vision starting to happen. You know that other agents that have gone through the valley of despair have become successful, and you are walking the same path as them, right? Here's the thing. The key here is not to stop, but to keep going, to leverage the success with more success, to pour on more effort and more work, right? This is how you start moving up to the final stage, stage 5, success and fulfillment. Okay. Successful fulfillment is the final stage of the emotional cycle of change. Here, the benefits of your new behaviors, you fully experience the benefits, and the cost of change is perceived now as worth it. You perceive it as worth it now. The actions that were once difficult and uncomfortable are now routine. So when you talk to agents that are successful, you start bombarding them with, objections. They kind of look at you sort of dumbfounded. Actually, I don't know how to answer that objection. I don't get that objection anymore. There's something in how they do what they do in their voice that books appointments. They don't run into objections. And this is that whole notion that if you have that objection in your head when you're booking an appointment, they're going to come up with it because there's this weird mental transmission of that objection in your head to them. The thing that you fear becomes true, right? The thing that you focus on the fear of something happening because you're focusing on it, it's going to happen. It's like when you tell your child, hey, don't touch that hot stove. Don't touch that hot stove. I'm telling you, don't touch that hot stove. Mentally, and this is scientific, they don't hear the don't. What their brains translates, because the brain does not hear negative. It hears touch that hot stove. But actually, what they hear is touch that stove. And they end up touching it, well, even though you told them not to, because they're focusing on what you're telling them not to focus on. Do you see how that works? When you start focusing on the worry and negative and fear, you get more of it, right? You speak it upon yourself. You expect the danger upon yourself, right? So success and fulfillment. Okay, so let's talk about the virtue of perseverance and why this virtue is important. And it's a spiritual virtue too, right? I'm going to talk about it from the perspective of, a little more. Well, I'll talk about the spiritual. I'll focus on spiritual more later. What is the virtue of perseverance? Well, it's simple. It's the virtue of sticking with things that you decide to do. It means being hardworking and finishing what you got started, despite barriers and obstacles that come up against you. It's the pleasure that you receive from completing tasks and projects that are super important to you, right? That people that have high perseverance levels gets a tremendous amount of endorphins from completing tasks that they had to endure. It's like running a race, a long distance race, and because you didn't quit, you finished the race. That juju you get, those endorphins are just tremendous, right? Sometimes he or she must dig deep and muster the will to overcome thoughts of giving up, right? It's the digging deep part, knowing that you have that inside you. Perseverance involves organizing yourself to support the activities to make it happen. Like the activities of perseverance. What are we talking about? I'm a big believer in scheduling multiple breaks while you're doing what you're doing, to schedule breaks so you can, shake it up, refresh yourself. Like, it's kind of like dialing. Like, man, I'm not a big fan of dialing, 3 hours straight. What I am a fan of is dialing 55 minutes, take a 5-minute break, or 50 minutes, get a 10-minute break, and then go 50 minutes, another 10-minute break, 15 minutes. Pretty soon, like those 3 hours just fly by because you're refreshed. You're not trying to just, kill yourself 3 hours, right? That's an activity of perseverance, scheduling breaks, and sticking to your schedule, right? Giving yourself small rewards along the way. Like, after every 50 minutes of dialing, you reward yourself with, I don't know, pretzel stick or something, just something innocuous, but knowing that you made it. Now let's do it again for this next 50 minutes, right? Um, here's the thing, when all else fails, this strength, the strength of doing the activities of perseverance will help you get through until what you want to accomplish is done. So it's important to take advantage of the little tricks of the trade of perseverance. Like a distance runner can tell you how they keep going, how they can keep going mentally, because it's all mental. It's all mental. Physically, they have to be able to run long distances, where it's a mile, 3 miles, a marathon, 10K, whatever. And they can teach you what they do in their brain when their body wants to stop. They go through mental gymnastics that they all lock down as to how to keep going, right? Here's by practicing the activities of perseverance, it'll help build further confidence that you continue to become successful in whatever you decide to do, because you've already experienced perseverance. You know how to do it, how to persevere. And so your goals that you set out for yourself, become way easier because you have faith that you can persevere because you've done it already. You've already gone through the hard stuff. And so getting through the hard stuff will give you the uh, the advantage of knowing that you can do it. It's this confidence you get. I mean, don't you know people that are successful? People that are successful understand the virtue of perseverance, and they seem so confident, right? Well, they're confident because they earned that confidence. You talk to any top producer, and they're confident that they have the skills to book appointments. They have skills to serve clients. They have the skills to come up with quotes for them and take care of them, right? See, perseverance involves a voluntary continuation of goal-directed actions. This is what we're talking about. Goal-directed actions, regardless of the challenges that come your way. The discouragement, the difficulties, things are going, there are things going to be thrown in your path. There are going to be darts. And what's really interesting is when someone decides to work with us, Satan throws darts at you. He's going to throw darts at you and darts at you to make you think you can't do it. You can't, make you think you cannot do this business, right? You got to be ready for that. You got to rebuke it in the name of Jesus, right? You got to learn to rebuke that stuff and continue on. There's really, ways to do it. Like um, Jesus, I call out the spirit of discouragement, and the spirit of discouragement, I send you to the foot of the cross so that Jesus can put you forever in hell, right? There are exorcism prayers that you can pray to cast out the demons of discouragement, the demons of fear, the demons of worry. Maybe we should go into some of those at some point in the future. But there are things that you can do to rebuke those spirits of discouragement. There are two, what do we call them? Vectors of perseverance. It requires both effort for the task, right? It's the plan, what you have to do, and then the effort to implement the plan for the duration and keep continuing on for the duration of whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. Okay. So that in general, it's a virtue of perseverance. So how do you deal, having said the perseverance part, how do you deal with the different cycles? Okay. So how do you deal with the uninformed optimism? Here's some tricks of the trade on dealing with the emotional cycles, and this will really help you. Number one, when you get into this stage, you're brand new, like Jason, you're brand new. What you need to do is make a list of all the benefits that you desire from making this change. What is your why? And I want you to detail it. It's not, well, I want financial freedom. Well, what does that mean? Financial freedom. Does that mean you're making 300,000 a year, where 100,000 goes towards retirement, 100,000, goes to taxes, okay, and the other 100,000 goes to, providing for your family? What does financial freedom mean to you, right? That your house is paid off, you have no debt. Like, be very specific as to the benefits that you want this change to accomplish in your life. Be very specific, or any kind of change. List out the benefits in all the detail you need, because the detail is what makes the vision real, is the detail, right? And then you need to keep remembering, like, it's a list, it's a dream board, it's your vision board that you put pictures of the things that you want that represents freedom to you. And you're visualizing it every morning when you wake up and every night when you go to bed, and several times during the day. You got to revisit why you're doing what you're doing. And you need to make it in super detail. And you got to keep remembering, especially when the negative emotions come, you put your list up and you read your list, right? That's how you deal with uninformed optimism. You get into informed pessimism. Again, revisit your goals, revisit why you want to do what you're doing, revisit the things that that are going to move you forward, that we've game planned, because you will have game plan with me or your growing up line, right? And they're going to give you particular goals, like, okay, you need to make, $275 by Friday, right? And you're not there yet. You need to revisit, where am I and am I going to get there? Okay. And then you need to determine if they're still achievable. If it's not achievable, then let's adjust your goals, right? Adjust them to match the new understanding of your situation, right? So it's okay to readjust. That's the whole art and the beauty of dealing with the virtue of perseverance, is adjusting, right? Because look, let's not fool ourselves. The 13th commandment, 13th, there are only 10 commandments. The 11th commandment is thou shalt not fooleth thyselfeth. That's the King James version of the 11th commandment. Thou shalt not fooleth thyselfeth. All right. Don't fool yourself. Let's readjust, and don't feel bad. You know what? I don't think I've ever made any goal at the time I set the time for it, the date I set for it. Okay. But I just readjusted it and then replanned my tasks and then started rocking, right? You need a mentor. Everyone needs a mentor. So you need to find a mentor that can help you, or many mentors. A wise person has many counselors, many mentors that can help you in different aspects of the business. I would certainly rely on your growing up line, but there are other things that they cannot help you with. They can, recommend that you talk to someone else. Like, we're not marriage counselors, okay? But maybe we can help you talk to someone who's got a great marriage. I don't know. We will figure it out, but you need to find a mentor, right? And then you need to find a support network of other people that can help you deal with all the challenges. This is why it's so important. You got to negate all those self-sabotaging thoughts that you have by getting around the people that have gone through what you're going through. That's why boot camps and live training events where you get around the people, Zoom calls like this one, important to get to, because you're going to have all these crazy thoughts in your head. These kind of calls, Zoom calls, live boot camps, live training meetings. Our next event, October 18th through the 20th, the National Boot Camp in Orlando, Florida. You're going to get around all kinds of people that will keep your mind right. And it'll, block all the self-sabotaging thoughts. You know what I'm talking about? Self-sabotaging thoughts, things that won't help you continue on. Right. And you know what I'm talking about, because they'll creep in there. And that's, again, how Satan will veer you away from what God wants you to do. He's going to inject things around you to change your emotional state, to making you wonder if you can do it. It's the self-doubt, the self-sabotaging thoughts that come from the enemy. He's a master manipulator. Look, he convinced a third of God's angels to go with him. He's pretty convincing. You know what I'm saying? Alternatively, alternatively, you ought to keep a journal. Like, journaling is a way to get rid of the negative stuff and focus on the positive. The more you verbalize your doubts and fears, the easier they are to address. But what I mean verbalize it. Don't speak it into existence, right? But write it down and then throw it away. And then journal how the positive things, your goals, your dreams, your vision that you're still going for, right? And you're not going to let all that worry and fear get in the way. So that's how you deal with informed pessimism. All right, man. Valley of despair. So here are some things to be able to deal with that. It is the hardest part, but it's not the hardest part where it's impossible. It's just the hardest part. You're going to get to the point where it gets hard, but it is something that you can handle because everyone has that is successful. The hard part is the essential part, right? The hard part is the joyful part if you embrace it properly and understand it for what it is, because everyone has gone through it and it's essential to your growth. Okay, so that's the thing you have to embrace. This is where the fundamental shift happens. So get excited when it gets really, really hard. This is where the shift in your life happens. If you can get through this part, and it's not if, it's when. When you get to where you want to go, look, it's not always how you pictured it, right? When you get to where you want to go, it's not always how you pictured it because it's going to be better than how you pictured it. That's one thing that you're going to say to yourself. So like the successful you, 3 months from now is going to look back on the you that's in the valley of despair, right? And the successful you is going to say, hey, just hang in there, man, because it's way better than I ever thought it was going to be. And I promise you get through the hard part, the good will be better than what you even imagined. I mean, it's crazy how that works. But see, here's the thing. Now you know what you're dealing with. Now you know that it's hard, but it's okay because you know what you're dealing with. The problem is not knowing. The unknown unknowns when you get started is the problem. When you're dealing with it, you know now how hard it is. So this is where you know that you can lean on your mentors. This is where you communicate. The last thing that you need to do in the valley of despair is to stop communication. People will start closing in. That's how I know someone's close to getting to quitting is they never talk to me, right? They don't reach out for help. They don't reach out for encouragement, or they have the ego. Their ego gets in the way. Their pride and ego gets in the way, and they don't feel like, oh man, if I tell X that I'm having trouble, he's not going to believe in me. It's like, dude, seriously, I'll believe in you when you're calling me because you're having trouble. That's how I believe in you because you're willing to communicate. That tells me that your pride and ego is um you get rid of it, that you are humble enough to not consider that and know that I'm here to help. I'm not here to judge you, right? It's totally opposite, right? You have to embrace the suffering, the way that Christ embraced the cross. You embrace the suffering because the glory will happen if you can endure, right? And here's one of the hardest parts. This is where faith kicks in, is you got to keep working, even if you don't see it working. But it is working. It is working when you are persevering. Okay. When you are persevering and you're suffering and you're getting through the hard part, you are growing. You just don't see it yet. Right. It's kind of like a foundation of a building, right? You're passing a construction site and it just seems like it takes forever for the foundation to be built. Foundation is probably one of the hardest parts, but it takes the longest to build the foundation. But then within a week, the entire framing goes up and you see the building. Like it just happens like this. But that framing doesn't happen like this until you build the foundation. The foundation is important to put time in because that's what you build your house on. You can't build a proper house on a weak foundation. The weak foundation is built through suffering and perseverance. See that? You don't see it happening. You're passing that construction. You don't see all the work. But then all of a sudden the building goes up. And this is what you're doing. how to deal with informed optimism. Okay, so this is where you the kind of the watch it. So you got to stay positive. You got to keep going up, keep moving up towards success. You're not done yet, right? This is where you kick in. Like I'm big on affirmations, and you got to stay positive in this stage because you got to pour on the gas. A lot of agents kind of take their foot off the gas, and then they think they can let it ride, and this is where they get slapped upside the head, right? And they lose all their momentum. Then they can backslide. And that's the danger, is backsliding. You want to keep going up in the informed optimism to success and fulfillment by pouring on the gas of work and continuing to see the success, right? Affirmation cards are a great way to continue that. So now, look, you're starting to see success. You're now in a position to support the other people on your team, or anybody not on your team, anybody else on our team, right? You can support them that are going through all the stages 2, 3, 2, and 3, right? You can help all the other agents there. And this is where it's so important, because now you become an example to other people. And the beautiful thing about being an example is that you can reach down to people that need your help, because other agents had reached down to help you through stage 2 and 3. And you could be the positive example to someone to help them through that stage, right? You could offer your knowledge, your support. And this is where it's so important for you to be at these events, because either you need the event or the event needs you. You need the event to bolster your mindset and attitude and your perseverance, or you're the one providing the boost to other people of their perseverance and their mindset and their attitude. This is how you really, going through this process, this step 4 is how you really cement where you're going. This is where you lock down your success, because you're not backing off. You're not letting your hand off the plow, right? And finally, success and fulfillment. That's easy to deal with. Easier to deal with because you know where you came from. You're going to feel fulfilled. You're going to be satisfied that you reached your goals. But here, the thing, you never stop here. You never have arrived, because once you get here, it's like, where else can I go? Right? And if you're going to go shoot for the next level in your business, so maybe you've learned to be a great producer. Okay. But how do I become a great builder of an agency? So when you transition, like I did not separate the two. I did both right from jump. So I went through all these cycles with both, so I didn't have to do it twice. See, the problem with selling and not building is you're going to have to go through this emotional cycle twice. And I tell you what, it is the harder for agents to get to level 5 in sales and then having to, okay, Alex, I'm ready to recruit. And it's like, then they go through the whole cycle again with recruiting. And then they yo-yo back, man. I tell you what, I've got so many stories of people that, this recruiting sucks. No one wants to do anything. It's like, dude, you're going through informed pessimism, right? And then valley despair, they quit. Well, I'm just going to focus on selling. Then they go to the next event. Next event gets them all fired up about recruiting. So they're in stage 1 again. And then boom, they go through stage 2 and 3. It's like a yo-yo. I never went through that. All I can tell you is I coupled both. That's the best way to do it, right? Anyway, your emotional response at this level will be much more informed. You know what you're doing. You know what you've dealt with, and you can help other people out of it. You celebrate your success. You celebrate that fulfillment. And this is where you thank the people that have helped you get there. And this is where gratefulness, the spiritual virtue of gratefulness kicks in, because gratefulness, it's really, like I've said, the parent of all the other virtues. When you're grateful going through all this, then you don't become prideful. And this is where prideful can kick in, because you're in successful fulfillment. This is where you start reading your press clippings. This is where you start thinking, more yourself than you ought to, and then pride cometh before the fall. And this is where you get slapped down, so you got to be very careful when you're in this level. Remember, the edification you get for becoming successful is edification that you spread down to other people, right? You get elevated to a level because everyone's talking good about you. Then this is how you have the credibility to talk good about other people. You can encourage and help other people. It becomes the burden of servanthood, servant leadership, right? And it's an awesome burden to bear when you're blessed with that edification. Finally, when you get to this level, what you need to do is reflect on how you got there, because all the skills that you learn to get there are skills that you can learn to use when you embark on your next goal, your next level, the next thing you want to accomplish in your life. You got to remember how you got there. Don't ever forget it, because then those are the skills that you can take with you. Okay. Anyway, so let's talk very specifically about the spiritual virtue of perseverance, which is not different. It's just applying it kind of in a spiritual way. So it's kind of like spiritual virtue. I got 5 minutes. Oh, this is going to be interesting. So a chick, they're in an egg and they become mature enough to get out of the egg and they start pecking their way out. You can see the shell starting to break up. They're performing this action of pecking at the shell, and it's more than a break for freedom. The process of pecking at the shell, it begins weeks and weeks before, and it'll have bearing on the chick's life outside to avoid prison. Okay, so it's kind of like their prison. Over the weeks that it pecks away, the chicken grows and gets stronger. And when and if it's strong enough to survive in the outside world, it will break through. But when an egg is cracked by an outside agent, such as a hen or a farm or whatever, the chick will be too weak to survive in the outside world and will die. So the process of getting out of the shell prison they're in is what strengthens them to be able to exist in the outside world. And so when you look at it with us, we're trapped in our own prison of sin and suffering, right? The Christian life, living a Christian life allows us to break out of that prison because you know that God is the center. God is what, why you are on this earth, and to know him and to love him and to serve him. And like the chick, perseverance is essential to break out of your spiritual bond of sin and suffering. See, every day that we meet difficulties and obstacles and hindrances to our Christian journey, right? Every day that we meet those difficulties and surpass them through the spiritual virtue of perseverance, whether they're internal barriers or external, because you're going to get both. You're going to get external from Satan, and you're going to have the internal ones that you're trying to fight, like your spiritual self-image. You forget that you're an adopted son or daughter of God. Perseverance allows us to stay focused on the good during difficult times, right? It allows us to continue in the virtuous life when times are tough. So when we persevere, we're strengthened by God's gifts of what I call habitual grace. See, when you continue to persevere through suffering and through difficulties, you're going to be blessed with the grace because you cannot get through it without grace. And so it becomes habitual grace. See, the example of the chick is, really only helpful to a point. The chick can achieve liberty on his own actions, but for Christians, for us that believe in Jesus, right, the perfect act of perseverance is persevering in faith, hope, and charity until death. See, the final act of perseverance is when we die and we get to heaven, based on the theological virtues of faith, hope, and charity. And we'll get into that at some point, right? The act of perseverance is accomplished. The act of persevering is accomplished at death. But see, we need more than habitual grace because it's not the power of our free will to abide in goodness unchangeably. In other words, we can't do it, but we have to rely on the grace of God. St. Thomas points out that final perseverance requires the gratuitous help of God sustaining the human being in the good until the end of life, right? Humans on their own, we fall into sin. We are not perfect, right? We constantly fall into sin. The death and resurrection of Christ repairs the rift between God and humanity because of sin. And by the grace of Christ, we are lifted and raised up. We are set free, baby. That's the beautiful thing about the grace that we receive by being believers and by persevering through the suffering and pain, because we're going to be fortified by the grace that he gives us. It really works on the outside or inside out, by receiving that grace, by being repentant of sin in our life and accepting forgiveness will keep us going. Keep receiving that grace to persevere. St. Augustine says, we receive not only the possibility of persevering, but perseverance itself, which is kind of blows your mind. So let's talk about scripture verses. Man, I'm 1 minute over. I apologize. I don't know if you can read that. James 1:12. Blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial, for when he has stood the test, he'll receive the crown of life, which God has promised to those who love him. Okay, he meaning the all-inclusive he or she. Okay, so I just want to make that point. I'm not, big on the gender thing, but back then, when the Bible was written, it was all-inclusive. The wording was already inclusive. Okay, Galatians 6:9. This is one of my favorite ones, if not the favorite. And let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. That's one of my favorite ones, man. That's the one that just keeps me going. Galatians 6:9. Romans 5:3-5. Not only that, but we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. And hope does not put us to shame because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. That's a powerful one right there. And then we have James 1:2-4. Count it all joy, my brothers and sisters. Count it all joy when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness, and let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. See, God's grace is enough, gang. God's grace is enough. You don't need anything more because God's grace is enough. So here are some action steps that I always end with action steps. So let's talk about what we want to do. So here's what I want you to do, and I will get this out to you. In fact, I will chat it out. So I'm going to chat out the link to download this PowerPoint so you have it. Write down the emotional stage that you're in. All of you are in some kind of emotional stage. Okay. Which one are you in? So jot that one down. Next, write down the top 3 toughest things that are holding you back. Is it fear, belief, skill, discouragement? Write those down. Write down the techniques on how to get around the negative emotions that are holding you back. See, here's the thing, wherever you are, you got to put a game plan on how you're going to react to wherever you are, right? So write down what you're going to do to specifically combat those things. I've given you a bunch of ideas, but in prayer, you can come up with ones as well, the ones that you know work for you. Then here's the thing. Again, I'm big on prayer. Incorporate these in your prayer life. So you put these to prayer, gang. Put these to prayer. Okay. Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. All right, gang. So we are done. I know this is a little bit longer, but let me send you the link to the PowerPoint. Okay, so I'm going to give you a few minutes to download that. And the action items are right there. And again, you can revisit this PowerPoint and remember stuff I talked about. So anyway, I hope this made sense. And we'll keep doing this Wednesdays. We'll keep doing this Wednesdays. There might be a little bit of adjustments to the schedule, but I'll email blast if there are any changes in the future. Okay. So anyway, did y'all get it? You need me to keep it up there? I'm 6 minutes over. So I apologize. All right, man. Well, look, this is my pleasure to hopefully feed you. This is kind of my mission, and I just hope that that you're going to get value out of this. So anyway, thanks everybody. God bless.
Thank you, Alex.
You're
That
welcome.
was really good.
Take care. Thank you.